Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, which is the HMRC Secure Mailbox in Sage 50 Payroll. My name's Alice and I'm going to be delivering today's webinar. I'm also joined by Duncan, who's going to be answering your questions in the Q&A throughout the session. So a couple of sections to get through. First one is going to be setting up your HMRC Secure Mailbox, a little bit of a walkthrough of those e-submission settings in the programme. We'll then be checking for notices and applying those changes, so taking a look at the mailbox itself and how it works. We'll then move on to the P46, so how to submit a P46 car form to HMRC via the mailbox. And then we do have a section on some top tips towards the end. Now these are included throughout the session too, so do keep an eye out for those. And then as always, we will finish with some further support, so upcoming webinars and some other places to get support too. Now, before I get started on that first section, I do actually just want to launch a poll on your screen. I've just got a question for you before we begin. And that should be coming up on your screen any moment now. And that question is, how do you currently receive tax code notices from HMRC? Always interesting to see on this session. I'll give you about a minute or so just to get those answers in. So how do you currently receive tax code notices from HMRC? Is it already via the mailbox? Is it via the HMRC online service? Paper notices in the post, or don't know/other? Great, I can see those answers coming in now. And I will share these as well, just so you can see if you're curious. I'll leave that open a bit longer. Great, I'll just end that now and share those results. So there we go, we can see a bit of variety there, always interesting to see. But just, yeah, anyone who is already using the mailbox, I do hope that this session gives you some more top tips and maybe things that you don't know already. But for those of you new to it, this is going to be ideal just to kind of walk you through everything that you'll need to know. Fab, so let's actually move on to that content then. So first section, which is setting up your HMRC secure mailbox. And this is actually an integrated mailbox within Sage 50 Payroll that's going to connect to your HMRC online services. It's going to retrieve notices directly from HMRC, such as student loan notices, postgraduate loan notices, and tax code notices as well. And then in that mailbox, you've got the option to then apply these to the relevant employees. So you might have previously been applying those notices individually in the employees' records. So this process actually will save you time. And for those of you who did vote that you're receiving paper notices in the post, it obviously will save paper and again time with that option too. Now to use the mailbox, first of all, you're going to need to know your user ID and password for HMRC's online service. Now don't worry if you don't immediately know what these are. These actually should already be in your programme just for when you submit your real-time information to HMRC, so your FPS, EPS, etc. And then second thing, you also need to have electronic notifications enabled. So those of you who are receiving paper or post notifications from HMRC, you'll just need to enable the electronic notifications in order to use the mailbox. And if you're not sure how to do this, I have just popped the steps here on this slide. It basically just involves amending your notice preferences on HMRC's gateway, just to switch over to those electronic notifications. So those steps are there. Don't forget to download the handout if you need those. In terms of setting up the mailbox, it's basically just a case of checking that your resubmission settings in Payroll are up to date. So these settings do include various company details, as well as that user ID and password that I've mentioned. It is also where you would record contact details and some other configuration settings as well, which we will take a look at. But let's show you these settings in the program. So I'll turn my camera off and we will go into Payroll. And first of all, I'm just going to go to the e-submissions tasks. And first option in those tasks is actually those settings. In here, you can see we've got two tabs. We've got settings and also contact details. So first of all, just the settings tab, we can see just a few details on the company here. So just the name, tax district and reference number. You can also see that user ID and password. So as I mentioned, if you already submit FPSs, EPSs, etc. to HMRC, these settings are correct, so you can just leave those alone. But just be aware though, if for example you change your login to HMRC's online services, you would need to come and manually update these details in the e-submission settings too, or your submissions won't go through. These details are just what connects to HMRC and allows those submissions to go through, and then as you'll see with the mailbox, it allows those notices to be received as well. Now in terms of configuration settings in here, first one is just this tick box asking if you'd like to check for new messages when opening the mailbox. This setting just means that when you open it up, it's going to automatically refresh and see if there's anything new to pull through. And it just saves you that extra little bit of time for checking for notices, for example. There is also this tick box on the right that I want to point out, which is to clear the P46 car flag on submission. So once that form has been submitted to HMRC, it basically just clears a tick box for you in the employee's record. And I'll show you that once we get to that section. Totally preference for those two tick boxes, but just for today, I'm going to leave those blank. And then just moving on to that contact details section 2. In here, make sure you've got those contact details all up to date. And if you submit as an agent, so on behalf of any clients that you've got, just to fill in those details there and tick that box too. That's all there is to it really for those e-submission settings and for the setup of the mailbox. So I'll save those and just pop back to the slides. Just a reminder there, so e-submissions, then the e-submission settings. And remember, you can get the mailbox to automatically check for new messages when opening by ticking that box on the left. And if you do change your user ID or password for the Government Gateway Online, just a reminder that you will have to change that in these settings too. But now that we have that mailbox set up how we'd like, and we've checked those details in the settings, we can now check for notifications and apply them directly to the relevant employees. And I'd like to begin this section just by going over some of the main notices that you might receive in the mailbox, starting with the P6 and P6B. Now this is notice of a change in an employee's tax code and also information on the previous pay and tax. These are typically received mid-tax year. It's often because you've taken on a new employee, for example, partway through the tax year, who maybe didn't have a P45 from the previous employer. So they'll basically send a tax code notice for them. Next, we have the P9. So these are seasonal, and they do tend to be sent ready to take effect from the beginning of the new tax year. Often received about February or March time, ready for April, the new tax year. If you did attend our Payroll year-end webinars this year, you'll hopefully remember either Duncan or Sarah showing you how to apply these P9s to get ready for the new tax year. SL1, PGL1 notices, these are notification to start a student loan or postgraduate loan. And then you've got the SL2, PGL2, which is notification to stop those. There's also national insurance verification requests and notices. So these are responses from HMRC regarding national insurance number verification requests, or sometimes after you've done an FPS. And these notices are basically to correct or confirm that national insurance number information. So HMRC check that the NI number is present and correct, and then will send an appropriate response. But just some common examples of forms that you might receive there in the mailbox, and then you'll be able to apply these directly to your employees using the mailbox, which we will take a look at now. So back to payroll, and I would like to demonstrate now how this process works. You can actually find the mailbox in e-submissions, and you've just got that option there, IR Secure Mailbox. Or if you're a process map user, I'll just get that up for you. And you work through the pay run this way, you can see it does have its own step on the process there. So ideally you would check for notices and get any changes applied before you go ahead and enter the payments for your employees. And this just means if there have been any changes, they're made prior to the employee's pay being calculated, so tax and any other deductions are correct. I'll go ahead and open up the mailbox. Here we are. And if you tick that box in the settings earlier to check for new mail automatically, that would automatically kind of load and pull through any new notices. But if not, so I did not tick that box, it's just going to be a case of clicking new mail, and that's going to check. You'll have a loading bar going across, and that's going to pull through any notices. Just to point out as well, today I am actually using a simulation of the mailbox today, so a few things might look slightly different for me than it does for you. For example, when you click new mail, you will have a loading bar going across. As you can see, I do actually have two P9 notices in here. As I said, these are typically received in February or March time ahead of the new tax year, so I am a little bit late applying these if this was a real payroll, but I did just want to show you these. They're still really common notices to receive, so just kind of show you how that process works. If you have multiple notices, which you most likely will, you can actually use the clear and swap icons over here to clear your selection or select them all. Just makes it a bit quicker to apply multiple notices. Or similar to how you would select files in File Explorer on Windows, you can click the first notice, hold Shift on your keyboard and click the last one, and that would select everything in between. A similar story here, you can either click and then hold Control on your keyboard and kind of individually select multiple notices too. Just different options there. I just tend to use the clear and swap up here, and then I can open them and view the details there. So open up all of those notices, of which I've got two there. See the details in here. I can check who it's for, the national insurance number. In this case, of course, it's tax code notices, so I can see what the tax code's changing to, and the effective from date as well. And now it's going to be a case of applying these notices. You do also have a print option if you want to print any of these details as well. If you receive notices in advance, you can actually apply them early to get prepared, and payroll knows that they're not going to be effective until that effective from date, so until your process date in the programme is on or after that date. So I'm going to go ahead and click apply here. We will get a notice just to say, do you want to make these changes? So we'll click yes. And we can see those notices there have been successfully applied. So these are applied to the employees and will take effect from that effective from date, which in this case, it's just from now. So if a P6 or a P9 tax code notice is applied late, so just like I am, the tax code will usually just be used from the point it's applied. Of course, they are date sensitive, should be applied as soon as they're received. So a little bit of best practice, just check this mailbox at the beginning of each pay run that you do, just to make sure any important changes are implemented. But they've been applied, so I'll close this window. And we can actually still see them in the mailbox, which is fine. All we need to do if you want to, so let's pretend we're coming back next pay run, I'll close the mailbox and reopen it. And that's going to refresh the mailbox. They've been applied, so they're no longer showing there. Now, if you do want to see any mail that's been applied in the past, there is actually an audit trail of these changes, and that's going to be in your e-submissions log. So e-submissions, and you'll see e-submissions log there. Just in case you're not aware what this does actually show a whole log of all of the submissions that have been sent in this company. So FPSs, EPSs, year-end submissions, etc. You can actually filter this list too and see when they've been sent along with the status. But along the top, there is also an applied mail tab. So this is the mail that's been applied in the IR Secure mailbox. We can see what the notice was, when it was applied. And again, if you want to click and view details, you can. Or if you want to print the details, you've also got the option there too. But they've been applied, so I do want to just show you the changes that it's made to those employees. So I'll highlight those and open up the records and just check those tax code notices. So employee number 2, if we just open up the tax code information there, great, I can see the one that's in use, so the one that we've just applied there, 1257L, with that effective from date. And then same with employee number 5. Great, I can already see it's been applied, obviously. But if I want to view a bit more information, I can do so like this. So nice quick process. And now that I've applied those changes, I would just be ready to go ahead and do my July payroll. So that's my next one. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to update my records for July because I do want to show you a couple of other things. So I'll just skip through this. Always take a backup at this point as well. Fab, so that's my records updated. I'll skip the rest of the steps there, and I'm just going to go ahead and change my process date to my next pay date, which would be 31st of August. So I've come to payroll, it's now August, and let's say I want to check the mailbox again ahead of running payroll. I'll go back to e-submissions and IR secure mailbox, or of course, if you use that process map, you've got it there. Let's just see if I've got any new mail for August. So I'll pull those through now. And we can see I've got 3 different notices there. So I've got a P6 for my new employee. I've got a student loan start notice for employee number 10, and then a student loan stop notice for employee number 1. So they are in different sections with them being different notices, but still easy enough just to open them and apply them. So I can open them like this, view the information, the effective from date, and then get that applied. See it's been successful. And then just same with the others as well. And see the information, plan type 1, and I'll get that applied. And then same with the student loan stop notice too. Great, so they've all been applied there. And again, I just want to pop to these employees' records just to show you. Perfect, so you can see, we'll be able to see these changes there. I've got employee number 1, employee number 10, and then of course a new employee 2, and I can view that information in the records. So I just want to kind of recap what I went through in that section there in terms of actually using the mailbox. So we checked for notices by opening up the mailbox. And if you didn't automatically tick that box in the settings to automatically check for the mail, just a reminder to click that new mail option. You can then view the details either individually of the notices by just clicking open, or highlight them all to open all of them at once, and you can apply them all at the same time too. And just remember to check for new notices just before you enter the payments. You do want to make sure that any changes like tax code notices and things are implemented before things like deductions are calculated for your employees. And that is the main use of the mailbox. So it's mostly used to receive and apply notices. But it does actually have a secondary use, which is the ability to submit a P46 car form. So this is for when a new car is provided for an employee, or it's withdrawn, or there are changes made. And this form's required if you still use the P11D process to report expenses and benefits to HMRC. So if you payroll the benefit in kind, you do not need to send a P46 car form. Instead, those details are going to be sent through on the FPS. So I do want to go back to the demo and just show you how to submit this car form. Nice and easy to do so. So in order to submit this, I first of all need to just quickly create a car record for my employee. So we'll just go to the first one. I'm going to go to the cars/fuel tab. And you can create a car record by just going to new car at the bottom there. So this visit's just going to walk you through that process. I'm just going to quickly input some details here, just of what the car's details are. The date first registered, I'll just make up some details here. And next, make up a price. And then the date that the car was first made available for the employee too. Great, and I'll click Next and Finish. And once I click Finish, it's going to create that car record. So we can see that's kind of populated the information in there, and it will allow you to work out the Class 1 national insurance in the following tax year. Now, because this car is new in this tax year, so it's only just been issued for them in April, it's not actually showing any Class 1 national insurance here. That's absolutely fine. But what it does do, however, is prepare a P46 car form, which we can submit online to HMRC. So it's tick the box here to say that we require that form, and it's filled out the information in here as appropriate, but we can, of course, change anything if we need. I'll save this record now, and I'm just going to show you how to submit that. So again, if we go back to that mailbox, and in here we can see there's a section for HMRC submissions. So I'll drop that down, and there we can see we've got the P46 there. So I can select it in here, and I'll click Submit. Just move this in the middle there, click Submit. And this is going to look very similar to any other submissions that you've made. So working through this, click Submit, and that is the data sending across there to HMRC. So much quicker than printing it out and posting it to them. And once that bar has gone across, it's been successful. I'll just close this, and it's now actually just gone into that submitted items section. So just going back to this employee's record, because at the beginning of the webinar, when we checked the kind of setup of the mailbox and things, there was a little tick box regarding the P46 car flag in the employee's record. So if I had ticked that box, what it would have done is automatically untick this box for me. But because I didn't have it ticked, I would just manually have to come, untick this box, the form is no longer required, and click OK. So totally preference, as I say, but I just wanted to show you whereabouts that was. And that is how to submit that form. So we created that new car record, just in the record for employee number 1 there. That then created that P46 car form, which we could check over, make sure that top tick box is ticked in the record, and then just go to the mailbox to submit this form to HMRC. And once it's been submitted, it'll move to that submitted items section. And then after this, depending on what your setting is, you would go back into the employee's record and just untick that P46 car flag, just to say that the form is no longer required. And at this point, I do want to really briefly just mention the future changes to payrolling benefits. Now, this isn't until 2027, so still some time to go. But I just want to reassure you there that any future changes will be communicated through our help articles, product updates, and future webinars too. And that does actually bring us on to the last section of the webinar. So just a few top tips, kind of recap really, because we have gone through a couple of them. But top tip number 1 that I've got for you is just when you're selecting multiple notices. So you can select multiple and apply them all at the same time, which again will save you some time. You can either use the clear and swap buttons in the mailbox, or similar to how you'd select files in File Explorer, you've got the option to hold Control to select individual notices, or hold Shift and click the first and last notice in that list to kind of select everything, open them all at the same time, review those details and get them applied. Number 2, you can delete all notifications in the same way. So if there's something in the mailbox which maybe you've already applied, or it's really old notification, for example, select them in the same way, and then you've just got that option to delete, which was just next to the open button. Number 3, so notices that are showing maybe after they've been applied or deleted. Just as you saw in the demonstration, if you just close and reopen the mailbox, that's going to refresh it for you and get rid of anything really that doesn't need to be there. And then last one for you, this is the checking the applied mail option. So if you go to your e-submissions log, not only can you see a whole log of any submissions that have been made in the company, so FPSs, EPSs, etc., but you can actually view in the applied mail tab any notices that have been applied in the past, the details, when they were applied, and if you do want to access any more of those details to print them off, you've got the option to do so. So remember, you can download the handout there just to get those top tips and of course any other slides in the presentation. But that does actually bring us to the end of the content today. So before we do wrap up, just a few more things to go with you in terms of further support and just to talk about some upcoming webinars as well. So just a few to mention in July, we are running some more sessions. So we've got Mastering Mistakes. So if you want to learn about the rollback process, restore or recover, you can come to that, and Duncan will be talking you through that with some really great demonstrations. We've also got one on processing levers, everything you'll need to know about that, the payroll assistant option in the programme, and then also variance reporting too. And then our next session in partnership with Advisor Plus, that is on Thursday the 6th of August, and that is going to be covering employee relations in outspoken times, managing belief and freedom of expression at work. So that should be a really interesting session there. And I have just included a link directly to that session if you want to sign up for that one. But regarding the Sage 50 payroll ones, we've got the register now button there, or just sage.co.uk/webinars to get signed up. Also the Sage Help Centre, so on here, just sage.co.uk/help. You can search the knowledge base, you can access different support guides, demonstration videos, and we've got a whole webinar section too, so if you want to see what's upcoming or view any of the previous recordings, you can do so on there. And should you need to get in touch, you do have those options to contact us as well. But that does bring us to the end of the webinar for the HMRC Secure Mailbox. I just want to say if you are leaving us now, just remember to download the handout and feel free to copy and paste any of the Q&A if you'd like to keep any of those questions or answers. Then last thing from me, there is going to be a short survey that you'll get as you exit the webinar. So if you do have just a moment to fill that out, I would really, really appreciate that. And this is actually my first payroll webinar back after maternity leave. So yeah, hopefully it went well, but the feedback does go a long way. But that is it for today. So what I'm going to do is just go on and mute for a few moments just to see if I can help Duncan with any remaining questions. And I'll pop back in just a few minutes to kind of wrap things up. So I will see you in a moment. Hello everyone, that's just me back again. Thank you so much for those questions. It does look like we've just about got the last answers out to you, so hopefully you found those useful. And thanks again to Duncan. But keep an eye on your emails for a recording of the webinar coming through. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Would love to see you on another webinar very soon, but on behalf of me and Duncan, we'll see you next time.